Okay. So today we will do is learn about disaster management and mitigation, disaster mitigation. Okay, so it's one of the most important part in disaster management cycle, or you can also call it disaster continuum. All right, so this is the structure of the lecture that we are going to go. First we're going to understand the what is disaster management, structural and non-structural mitigation, disaster mitigation strategy, importance of communication in disaster mitigation, then emergency, importance of emergency trends in disaster mitigation, strengthening the capacity for reducing the risk, and role of team and coordination. Okay, so
Okay.
disaster, we as all we know that the definition of disaster management, and in that illustration, disaster management has explained a cycle where we start with mitigation process, then preparedness, then response, and then recovery phase. In that recovery phase we have two again, then that is rehabilitation and reconstruction stages. All right, so we will not go through the definitions again because we have already done in our lecture. Now we continue with the disaster management cycle, that is mitigation. What is mitigation? Mitigation is minimizing the effect of disaster. For example, following building codes, zone vulnerability analysis, public education, they are all part of disaster mitigation. What is the disaster preparedness? Disaster preparedness is when we make plans how to respond during a emergency. Preparedness plans, like in case any emergency occur, how you are supposed to prepare yourself, what are the things that you require to help you come out from that emergency situation, crisis, training and warning system. All right, then we have response. In response we have rescue and relief operations. Rescue and relief operations uh, are a very important thing because it will the better the prompt the response action is, the better the mitigation or losses will be reduced furthermore. All right, सो रिस्पॉन्स में क्या होता है कि जितना आपका बेटर प्रॉम्प्ट होगा रिस्पॉन्स, जैसे रिलीफ एक्शन अगर जितना प्रॉम्प्ट होगा उतना ही आपका जो लाइफ लॉस्ट है, जो प्रॉपर्टी लॉस्ट है, वो कम हो जाएगा. So hence response is also for reducing the losses. All right, now recovery. In recovery phase what we have short term recovery and long term recovery. In short term recovery we have rehabilitation activities and rehabilitation planning, like for a temporary basis, where will you locate refugees or where will you locate the victims of particular disaster, right? And for a long term effect and for a long term recovery process, what we need to have, we need to have reconstruction process. In reconstruction process we build the entire community, the livelihood of the community and the individual, the legal assistance, the financial assistance of the community who have been affected by the disaster. Wait, let me add students. They have started coming in now. Okay. All right. Now, disaster management in a disaster management for a sustainable development of any region or a country, we need to consider the entire cycle of disaster management. That is mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. So one of the main goal of this continuum
हेलो.
is that. Yes, Ravi.
गुड मॉर्निंग मैम. आवाज मैम बहुत धीरे आ रही है आपकी.
आवाज धीरे आ रही है. अम, राहुल, तुम्हें आ रही है आवाज क्लियरली?
मैं इसको बोलूं लेफ्ट करके दोबारा ज्वाइन करेगा, इसकी मैं प्रॉब्लम है.
हाँ,
करता हूँ, मैं फिर से ज्वाइन करता हूँ.
आवाज में तो आवाज क्लियर है. ओके,
Yes, ma'am.
सो ये करते हैं। अरे भाई, मौसमी और रवि को मैं दोनों को बोलना चाहती हूँ, यू शुड ज्वाइन द क्लास इन टाइम, ऑलराइट? एनीवे, so one of the main goal of disaster management is that one of its strongest link will develop and promotion of the sustainable livelihood. So we must have a sustainable livelihood and their protection and recovery during the disaster emergency. Okay, now this is a structure that I want to explain, that the sustainable development, we need to have a proper economic flow, economy working. We need to have a proper environment, and then social community together. When it clubs together, this center part gives you the sustainable development. When you are in harmony with economy, when you are harmony with your environment, when you are in harmony with your community participation and resilience, then we can aim of getting the sustainable development activities. Now, sustainable development, where this goal is to achieve people, uh, achieved where people have greater capacity to deal with disaster. So it means that sustainable development will lead you to be more resilient towards any emergency, right? So it will build your capacity. So it will also, it is a, what do you call it? It is like a chain. So one thing affects the other thing, and vice versa. All right. So in a development oriented disaster management approach, the objectives are to reduce the hazard, prevent disaster, and prepare for emergency, right? Now, the first phase of disaster management cycle is to measure and see and analyze, to remove the risk or the hazard which is there in pertaining there. And then also, the aim is to reduce the effect of the losses, the due to the any emergency or any event. When there is a threat to loss of any property or life, when you reduce that threat, that is called mitigation process. All right. Now, mitigation is a proactive step. It is a proactive step that has to be taken to reduce the losses, also the financial losses. Whether it is a human life, whether it is a structural loss, whether it is an agricultural field loss, or livestock loss, everything in on earth, when we are dealing with human activities, it has some cost. All right. It is financially, it is a toll to a development. All right. So loss to any of these component will cost money. Like, even if a person is lost and died, maybe that person is the only earning member of that person, so that family may face financial crisis. That family will require financial assistance from the government or other agencies, or maybe the community. So in that way, you what this is happening is that from out of the community or the government fund, there is some financial assistance going, that is some financial transaction is happening there. So that's why anything which is lost due to the emergency or extreme events, it cost a it is of some, it comes out of some cost. All right. Now, mitigation efforts are generally organized in three primary activities, that is risk analysis, risk reduction, and risk insurance. Okay. So for analyzing risk, what you need to do, you have to identify the hazards. Then you have to what you have to do is, you have to identify the elements at risk, what are the elements that can come under the risk. And then then you aim for seeing that how you can reduce these elements at risk, the vulnerability of these elements, how can you reduce that. So that activity includes risk reduction. Then we have risk insurance. Okay, so we know that risk insurance is basically to cover all the you know uh, basically to cover the losses, the financial losses that is going to come in case you become a prey to any of the disaster. Now, mission of any mitigation effort is to proactively avert or moderate its impact. All right. Now, the mitigation are designed to reduce the vulnerability of local citizens and property at risk. It can be applied to enhance protection from natural disasters such as floods, tsunami, earthquake, cyclone, then and many more disasters, natural calamity, also man-made calamities. All right. Now, the mitigation measures help community avoid several damages to their assets and help them remain operational in the face of calamities. All right. Now, disaster mitigation aids further strengthen structural facilities such as roads, railways, hospitals, fire station, and other significant services facilities so that they can remain active in an event of disaster. Now, pre-disaster planning helps in achieving mitigation objectives by creating an awareness of risk and hazards. The structural measures like strengthening of infrastructure, check dams, contour planting. Then we have improved drainage system, rainwater harvesting, building codes, and policies that will protect the structures or infrastructure of that region. Okay. Now, non-structural measures. What are the non-structural measures? Non-structural measures such as public health campaign, vaccination programs, and basically all these vaccination programs, health campaign, then awareness campaign, awareness programs, Roader Act are all structural measures to reduce the effect or to make the people more resilient and prepared for the coming of the event. Okay. Now, all mitigation measures are made at reduction of frequency, extent, intensity, and effects of the disaster. Now, objective of mitigation is to guarantee that any human action or natural occurrence does not lead to disaster. So it basically mitigation process aims to r- reduce the any human activity, effect of human activity, adverse effect of human activity. Like, suppose if you have a dam, if you build a dam, so what you need to have a structural mitigation and non-structural mitigation in steps in that you have to see whether the building the codes of the building a dam is properly followed or not, the materials, the the engineering techniques are all in place and proper or not. If any of this glitch happens, it will lead to a disaster. Like, you have built a dam supposingly, and you have used a you know a compensatory materials in those dams. Eventually it will give away, the dams will give away, and the water, the entire catchment water will start flowing to the lower course of the river and will inundate where maybe there is no structure, but there could have been people may have started practicing agriculture in the floodplain areas. So it will result in flooding the entire lower course. So that is in case of dam failure. But similarly, when you talk about natural occurrences, natural phenomena, uh, cyclone supposingly, we need to have certain mitigative steps that has to be taken to reduce the effect of the cyclone and the loss of the cyclone. Now, if you take up cyclone management in Odisha, that Odisha state has managed cyclone so well that now the losses are reduced far more than what they used to face. Okay, earlier they used to face a heavy load of losses, but now they have reduced see, whenever there is a disaster, when it is beyond the coping capacity of the region, they will always look for an assistance from the outside community, right? Now, these assistance are only needed when your mitigation steps are not taken up in serious matter. Now, if you see Odisha state, the whatever contingency fund they give for the disaster management, they utilize it for, using it for storm surges and cyclones, because they know that in there they require more cyclone shelters and steps that has to be taken for, if in case any tsunami strikes in those coastal areas, what steps has to be taken to reduce the effect of the tsunami. So they will take the structural measures to reduce that. Now the key to mitigation lies in reduction and aversion of and avoidance of the risk or any event from happening. All right, now mitigation measures can be physical and economical or social. It can be either structural, financial, or non-structural. Social means non-structural. Okay, so physical means infrastructural, that is a structural mitigation, can be categorized in what are the structures that can be destroyed, what are the new infrastructures, and which infrastructure requires, suppose there is an old infrastructure which requires retrofitting means you need with certain engineering and materials you used, you can sustain those structures. Suppose like what we do with old castles and palaces. What happens with old castles and palaces, you if you go in certain time, you will see that there are people tying up bamboos and trying to patch up whatever which is falling off from those buildings, right? So those techniques are called retrofitting. And destruction, some buildings are beyond repair, so what you need to do is that you need to completely destroy those buildings, and so that nobody else is hurt. Like in old Delhi region, there are many buildings which are very old, like almost 100 years old. So those 100 years old, so if very often what you see is that has joined very late, very often what you see is that in those old buildings, uh, some Delhi, some or some other time, every year, in fact we get a news that there's some building in old Delhi region has collapsed, and there are some casualties there. Okay, so this, to avoid this thing, what you need to do is you should completely destroy the buildings, evacuate the buildings, and destroy the buildings which cannot be retrofitted or engineered to be making it suitable for or safe for living, right? So these are the steps that you need to take for a structural measures. All right, in all these cases, they should be ensuring that the strong individual structures that are hazard resistant are constructed. The mitigation can be carried out in a systematic manner. Strategies can be built to amend, avert, and adjust or circumvent potential event. So circumvent to it is basically strategy to avert and avoid circumvent potential event, like I've told you, building collapse. So now those buildings which are very old and has a weak structure, if there is a slight earthquake jolting those buildings, they can collapse and can cause loss to life and property, right? Now amending the hazard involves modifying the nature of the hazard by eliminating or reducing the indice incidences of occurrences. Like how incidences of occurrences can be reduced, you can have some structural measures taken up, like fire accidents which happens very often into the buildings. You can have some structure implemented in those buildings, like you can have a fire exit, you need to have fire extinguishers installed, you need to have water hydrant installed. All right, now averting hazard involves transmission of the impact of the hazard, all right, away from the susceptible location to protect people and property from harm. All right, now for example, dam construction. Basically, the dam building of a dam sometimes helps reducing the incidences of floods, but it is also a potential hazard of causing furthermore floods in case if it if it fails. All right, now adjusting the hazard means changing the structural design and the standards. All right. Now, circumventing the hazard involves keeping people away from the hazard zones by limiting the developmental activities or development in a risk-prone areas. So you can have a limited activities or limited, development made in the risk-prone areas. Like I have given previous lecture also, give you example of a city, Chandigarh, where the structure is not built beyond certain height because it is on the risk of highly risk prone area of earthquake. It is on the zone 4, which can cause structure failure, and structure failure will lead to loss of life. All right. Now there are 4 sets of tools that could be used for mitigating disaster, that is hazard management and vulnerability reduction. So how do you manage hazard? Like natural hazard cannot be, you know uh, taken away from the account. It will always exist. Like there are places where earthquake will happen, but how will you reduce the vulnerability? First of all, you will reduce the vulnerability, structural vulnerability. Secondly, you will increase the capacity of the people of dealing with that area. You will make awareness camps. You will have drills and mock drills taking place there in those areas, so that people are practiced, and at the time of emergency they can avoid the situation of at the time, right? Like earthquake drills are there. So in earthquake drills, you let people know, like if you face an earthquake, what you're supposed to do. You should not panic. You should not try to exit the building in a haste. You should follow a path. If you have time, then you should try to leave the building in a proper line, making a proper line. Then, or in case you are far away from an exit door, so you should seek shelter so that no other debris fall on your head. So these are the few steps. Training programs, in the training programs, you tell people how to protect themselves during earthquake. Similarly, such training programs happen during for fire extinguishers, how to use fire extinguishers, how to exit fire, yeah, how, what is the nature of fire, how you can avoid the situation to escalate further on. So these are there. And with the training, what happens is, like, practice till you succeed, right? So more you practice, the better you become. So more prompt your action will be from saving, protecting yourself, as well as people who are victims who are stuck in those areas. Now economic diversification is also very important a part. Like, you cannot completely depend on one economic source or one source of financial assistance to avoid the disaster, right? You need to have a diversified ecosystem for economic activities. Now political intervention and commitment has to be there. So there has to be a political will to make those regions uh, safe for the community, right? Like what I have given you an example. The entire eastern coast is very vulnerable to cyclone and tsunami, but taking the what do you call uh, the study from the past year, Orissa is doing far better than West Bengal or Andhra or any of the other coastal regions. Why? Because they have been facing the threat of cyclone so long, that they have made it sure, the political will is so strong, that no, we will not compromise with cyclone mitigation and tsunami mitigation activities. We might compromise in some other way, but we will not compromise in this sector. So that's why they have built such a strong proactive disaster management plan and policy to be implemented in their state. All right, so that is the commitment that is required. By political commitment and intervention is required there. Now public awareness is very important. So public also need to be aware of that, what type of hazards are there, how to deal with them, and with the regular training programs, how they are building up their resilience against those extreme events. All right. Now mitigation of one of these like one and two, that is hazard management and vulnerability reduction and economic diversification, applies to natural disaster. And this three and fourth topic, that is political intervention, commitment and public awareness, applies to what used for mitigating any other hazards. It applies for all the hazards basically, taking from man-made disasters to natural disasters. Now, two categories of mitigative activities are structural mitigation and non-structural mitigation. We have discussed that. All right. Then structural mitigation deals with construction projects that are aimed at reducing the economical and social impact of the disaster. After carrying out risk analysis, the information can be used to describe and execute hazard mitigation activities. The available option must be identified, and cost and benefit analysis of each of these options must be performed. Structural mitigation, these measures are aimed to minimize the destructive and disruptive effect of the disaster. Like how disaster not only destroy your life and property, but it also obstruct the daily activity. So suppose somebody is going to the office every day and suddenly floods comes in, so that the entire transportation, the entire road is flooded, so you will not be able to transport to your office. So what happens, your daily routine, your daily livelihood and activities are obstructed because of the event, right? Now structural mitigation, selection of the site for industrial and residential buildings are also important. So how now we come to codes, how you should follow the codes. Like there is a law that industrial areas will not be near residential areas. So you will always find that all the industrial areas are outskirts of the city. All the city, with development, with population explosion, what is happening, the city starts moving towards the outskirts of the city periphery. And sometimes these areas are also intermixed with the industrial regions, but it is not recommended. Industrial region should be at a certain safety distance, so that residential buildings will not be affected due to the industrial activities. There are harmful emissions and effluents which is coming out from industrial activities, so that can be avoided. Right. Now selection of site of industrial and residential buildings should be followed. Like site planning has to be there. Then land use land cover pattern has to be understood, like where and it should not be, industrial areas should not be developed in such an area where it can affect the nature. All right. The other factors are like you should take care of take in consideration of ecosystem, urban development and environmental considerations. All right. Now, structural mitigation, the minimum distance from the sea, orientation of the building. So, in the areas in the coastal region, so distance from the sea, then the orientation of the building will also affect the what do you call structure. All right. Now, National Building Codes of India, that was implemented in 2005, again with the Disaster Management Act. It is a compensative building codes that provides guidelines for regulating the building construction activities across the country. So this building codes, National Building Code of India in 2005, they have given guidelines for every region, every area. All these regions should have a particular guidelines, they should follow that. Like coastal region will have a different structural guidelines from that of a hinterland region. All right. The coastal areas are found to be more vulnerable to tsunami and cyclone. That is the naturally. So the structure will be at par with that. The structural codes will be at par with the so that it can deal with tsunami and cyclone. All right. Now uh, the five factors to resist of cyclone buildings is the roof covering, windows, doors and all those things. That is for the structure cyclone. In case of cyclone, what structures you should have. This is an example that is given. And then similarly, in case of earthquake, you should have a particular structure and particular building codes that has to be followed up. All right. Here we are talking about cyclones and how cyclone structures can be implemented to make a more cyclone or tsunami resilient buildings. Okay. So this is all for the today's lecture. This is, we were discussing about the mitigation, how mitigation activity takes place. Okay. So you have any doubts so far? Any of you have
No,
any doubt? You
no,
understood
ma'am.
what is mitigation? Huh? So, okay, okay. If you have
Yes, ma'am.
understood what is mitigation, I have given you a quiz in your LMS. You can go and visit your LMS and attempt your quiz. All right. There are certain questions, panel of questions which is given there. Answer those. Let me see how much you have understood from the lecture. Okay.
Okay.